And five, four, three. Hello, everybody. How you doing? This is Eric, aka Wolfman. It is good to see you. And an interesting thing happened last night. I had a discussion, a debate. Pardon me. AKA. So last night I had a debate. Most of you know that I accepted a debate that was actually hosted by people who have mass stalked me and mass reported innocent posts on Facebook, like what I expect is an intelligent answer, and well, it looks like Jeff disappeared. Poof! Jeff was one of my debaters from this group that calls themselves Nemesis. So, it looks like their superpower, of course, is mass reporting. Well, they've got another superpower I found out. It's muting. Last night, I told all my friends, I said, look, I know I'm walking into a nest of snakes. The channel was owned by one of their members. The moderator was one of their members, another one of their members. And I was debating a friend of the entire group that I don't know if he's a member or not, but I do know he's a friend of the entire group. So at any rate, I showed them what a man was, because none of them would come on my channel to debate. None of them would come here to debate. They're all afraid to. Every single one of them are afraid to. So I showed them what a man is. I appeared on hostile territory. I did not care. And I told all my friends, watch, there's only one way they're going to be able to salvage this debate at all. If they allow me to speak, this will be one hands down, not because I'm brighter than anybody or a better speaker. I'm obviously neither. But what I do have is the information that wins these cases for me. I didn't care what the truth was. I sought out the truth. And the things that I present knock down the things. These are the things that win the debates for me. And that's why none of them want to debate me. And that's why we had a format set up last night where I was supposed to get a 10-minute opener, both of us, 10-minute opener, and I got that. The opening went fine for both of us. But then we were supposed to get a 10-minute cross-examination. He got his. They muted me during mine because he kept hem-hawing, trying to change the question, answer questions I wasn't asking. And I kept interrupting to get him to answer the question I was asking, address what he was being asked. And then I had to start getting interrupted by the moderator, who was telling me that I couldn't correct him. I couldn't ask him to answer the questions I was asking instead of the BS rabbit trail he was trying to take us down. So at any rate, they kept me muted for a large portion of my 10 minutes, and all I was able to do was listen to him drone on. I wasn't able to correct him and bring him back to the question. And then, of course, when the moderator asked him to answer, after he muted me, he says, "Here's your question, Mr. Warren." And he gave him the question that Warren wanted to answer, not the question I was asking. So, I told my friends that would be the only way they would be able to salvage debate, is to shut me up. And then, not only were we supposed to get a 10-minute cross-examination, we were supposed to get a 15-minute open discussion, and we didn't get that either. So, that's okay. That is all right. I'm good with that. I'm not angry about that. I understand they were trying to save face, and I called that ahead of time. I didn't care that I was walking into that. And yet none of them will still come here to debate me. That's okay. But this particular little video right here isn't going to be concerning that. This little video right here is concerning something. Tonight they're making a video about me, which is cool. They're entitled to. But right now, one of the things that they're denying is one of the points that I brought up in debate last night. He denied it last night, and they're denying it tonight. Craig Venter. Craig Venter is one of the most famous scientists in the world. He's a geneticist, and he's famous for many things. Venter was the first to map the human genome. That's where, I guess, where he first gained fame. But then not only was he the first to map the human genome, he also did something that was truly amazing. He took an E. coli bacteria cell. He removed the DNA. He rewrote an entire DNA sequence on his computer and created this DNA sequence and then injected it into the E. coli bacteria cell. And it survived and began to multiply. Now, the evolutionists went crazy. They kept saying, Venter created life, Venter created life. And Venter had to say no. He actually went on the BBC and had to correct everybody, saying, I did not create life from scratch. He started with an E. coli bacteria cell. Now, what he did was amazing. I give Venter all of the credit in the world. He deserves it. He's a magnificent scientist, and I appreciate his honesty. But, what they're denying, though, Venter came out a few years back at a panel discussion that included Richard Dawkins and several other atheist scientists. Venter himself is an atheist, as far as I know. But he made the claim that there is no tree of life of common descent, which is a core pillar of evolution. That's part of evolutionary teaching, is the tree of life of common descent. That's all of their pretty little phylogenetic trees. That's what they picture is the tree of life of common descent. Now, it's just a theory that was brought forth by Darwin, and every evolutionist since Darwin has believed this, like Dawkins, for instance. And Mr. Warren, who I debated last night, said that Dawkins embarrassed Venter and that he corrected Venter. Now, I laughed at that because Dawkins is a biologist who's only famous for his anti-theist stance, telling to people to mock and ridicule Christians. He's not, well, I guess he did write a book called The God Delusion. But as far as scientific accomplishments, he doesn't have any. And the thought that this anti-theist radical that claims to be a scientist can correct Craig Venter when it comes to DNA or genetics, that just made me laugh. But tonight, they're doing their program again, denying it again. So I thought I would show you this. I'm going to do a little screen share, and we're going to go right into this little video. So bear with me just a moment here. Here it comes. Okay. I'm going to enlarge this so you can see it. And here we go. This is Venter talking to this panel of atheist scientists. And here we go.
I'm not so sanguine as some of my colleagues here that there's only one life form on this planet. We have a lot of different types of metabolism, different organisms. I wouldn't call you the same life form as the one we have that lives in pH 12 base that would dissolve your skin if we dropped you in it.
Oh, I've got the same genetic code. We'll have a common ancestor.
Well, you don't have the same genetic code. In fact, the mycoplasma.
Now, you see right there, Dawkins tried to correct him, saying, well, surely they all have the same genetic code. And Venter is being very clear now and saying, no, they do not all have the same genetic code. So I'll take it back just a few seconds.
You don't have the same genetic code. In fact, the mycoplasmas use a different genetic code and would not work in your cells. So there are a lot of variations on the
But you're not saying it belongs to a different tree of life from me, are you?
Well, I think the tree of life is an artifact of some early scientific studies that aren't really holding up. So the tree.
So there we go. Right there, that's one important statement. This guy is trying to correct him, and he's saying, well, surely you're not saying that they're a part of a different tree of life. And Venter is being very bold and very clear, and he is bucking the entire system right now when he says that the tree of life of common descent is old science that hasn't worked out. I'm going to take it back a few seconds again.
And you're not saying it belongs to a different tree of life from me, are you?
Well, I think the tree of life is an artifact of some early scientific studies that aren't really holding up. So the tree, there may be a bush of life.
Right. Yes.
Bush.
I don't like that word.
But that's only.
I concede that. Yeah.
So there is.
Okay, so here he says there may be a bush of life, and elsewhere in his publications, he calls it a forest of life. And what he's implying is that abiogenesis didn't just happen one time. He's stating, actually, that there are different, everything has DNA, and everything has gene sequences. We all have that in common, but it's obvious through his DNA research that we're not all related through parent-child relationships. In other words, not all animals, not all life forms can be said to be related to one another, and the DNA is proving it. So
that's only.
I concede that. Yeah.
He concedes it.
So there is not a tree of life, and in fact,
So there is not a tree of life, he concludes here. Let's take this back a few seconds and listen to the whole thing at one more. There is no, he concludes, so there is no tree of life. There you go, Mr. Warren. There you go, Mr. Toon. There you go, Nemesis. They're all backing down
like
from
that word.
Venter.
but that's only.
I concede that. Yeah.
He concedes it.
So there is not a tree of life, and in fact, from our deep sequencing of organisms in the ocean, out of now we have about 60 million different unique gene sets. We found 12 that look like a very, very deep branching, perhaps fourth domain of life. That obviously is extremely rare, that it only shows up out of those few sequences.
And what he's saying there is, we've even discovered life forms that we may not, domains of life that we may not even realize exist, and most people do not realize exist. But if you're as deep into the genetic studies as he is now, he knows they exist. But these other people sitting around the table can hardly correct Mr. Venter. He's the expert in this field. He's highly sought all over the world. People give him huge positions to join their corporate structures to work with DNA. So what we see him saying here is, not everything is related through the tree of life of common descent, and there is no tree of life of common descent. He's very clear. He's very bold. I want to let you hear it one more time, and then we are going to move on to the end of this.
I don't like that word.
But that's only.
I concede that. Yeah.
So there is not a tree of life, and in fact, from our deep sequencing of organisms in the ocean, out of now we have about 60 million different unique gene sets. We found 12 that look like a very, very deep branching, perhaps fourth domain of life. That obviously is extremely rare, that it only shows up out of those few sequences. But it's still DNA based. But the diversity we have in the DNA world, I'm not so sanguine and ready to throw out the DNA world. I think we're going to, maybe like Richard was saying, we're going to find the same molecules and the same base systems wherever we look.
Now, here is where JL mixes it up. Venter is not reneging on anything he just said. He was very clear. So there is no tree of life of common descent. He was very clear on that. And what he's saying here is that even though there is no tree of life of common descent, everything still has DNA, everything that's alive, and everything still has a gene sequence, everything that's alive. So it doesn't matter what domain of life they are in, they all do still have that in common. And yet, he concludes, there is no tree of life of common descent.
You, in fact, had a comment you wanted to make, Richard.
Well, it's right.
And now Richard is going to make a comment that has nothing to do with what Venter's saying. And then he's going to come back to what Venter is saying. And you're going to see that he is acknowledging the fact that Venter is saying the tree of life of common descent is a fantasy. He's not disputing what he just said, what Venter just said. But he sounds squeaky like a little mouse at the end when he asks, surely the DNA proves that they're all related, doesn't it? He almost whispers, doesn't it? He squeaks it like a little frightened little mouse. Listen to this.
Rather moved on. I mean, I was just going to say I can't imagine why anyone should think it was an ethical problem. I could see why they might think it was a problem of expediency. You might fear that it would, escape and overrun the world or something. But ethical problem, I can't see. Well, but I'm now intrigued by Craig saying that he.
Look at how awkward he looks. Not only did this distraction happen that caught him off guard, but Venter is blowing evolution up right in his face. Here is this anti-theist atheist who touts evolution all his life, and Venter now breaks down one of the things that he has preached all his life. Dawkins has preached all his life about the tree of life of common descent, and Venter just destroyed it.
Well, I'm intrigued at Craig saying that the tree of life is a fiction. I mean, the DNA code of all creatures that have ever been looked at is all but identical, and surely that means that they're all related, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, when he says surely it means they're all related, and then he almost whispers, squeaks, doesn't it? But he does it so low you can barely hear it, but the audience hears it, and they're laughing at Dawkins. They're laughing at his nervousness. Here it goes one more time.
And surely that means that they're all related, doesn't it?
And there you go. Venter laughs at him. Venter laughs at him. Surely it means they're all related, doesn't it? And Venter laughs out loud at Richard Dawkins. So no, Mr. Warren, no Nemesis. Craig Venter was very clear here. There is no tree of life of common descent. Genetics proves it. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So there you go. Now, I just want to thank everybody that has dropped in. And I want to thank you for listening to this. Now, I do want to make clear that Craig Venter is an atheist, as far as I know. And he is not saying he does not believe in evolution. He just doesn't believe in the tree of life of common descent, that everything goes back to the Luca, or the last unified common ancestor, which was another thing Warren got wrong last night. He didn't even know what the last unified common ancestor was. But that's all right. We're going to cover that in a couple days when we do a review on that debate. That should be fun. But tomorrow night now, we're going to have an open mic night. I'm going to invite Nemesis. I'm going to invite anybody that wants to join. If you're a Christian, if you're an atheist, if you're Nemesis, drop on by. I'll be answering any questions that anybody might have. If anybody would like to come on for a debate, I will bring you in out of the audience, and you'll be free and welcome to join me. I don't care if anybody has a question about evolution, abiogenesis, God. I may not know the answer, but I can promise you I'll give you the best answer I can. And if I don't know, I'll simply tell you I don't know. But when it comes to evolution, abiogenesis, and God, these are the subjects that I do feel that I know. And I would be happy to share them with you. So please join us. And even if you don't have anything you want to ask, it should be fun to watch. I'm interested to see if any of them have the wherewithal to join us live, but they're certainly invited, and I'll treat them good. I won't treat them like they treated me in the debate last night. So God bless you all. Thank you for joining me. This is Eric, aka Wolf Bitten, and we will see you. We are gone. Bye-bye.